and I hope we'll have that opportunity when we debate the motion by the Honorable GK. Let me not get into that. But I really want to urge the House to agree with the Budget and Appropriations Committee that we decline the amendments by the Senate to allow the two houses time, together with the Council of Governors and CRA and the National Treasury, time to go through a process of mediation and finish with this bill as quickly as we can, because as you know, we cannot even be able to finish with the appropriation bill without finalizing with this. So the earlier we go into mediation, the better. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move, and I want to request the Leader of Minority to second this proposal, Honorable Speaker, by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. I beg to move.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to second. And Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Majority Leader that we are at difficult times, because 6 months ago, as he said, no one knew that the world will turn to what it is today. And it was unforeseen, because that time we thought that things will be normal, there will be no war in the Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz will not be closed, and life will be as good as it were. But now that we are in a difficult time, the Speaker, so it is prudent upon us to show leadership. And as you know, mediation is provided for in our standing orders. So, Mr. Speaker, there is no harm in having a mediation on this matter, so that the Senate and the National Assembly could sit and analyze this matter deeper, so that we look at the issues holistically and we look at the issues in accordance with what is happening in the world today, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because of what's happening in the world today, the government had to do extra measures to cushion Kenyans from the excesses that has happened in terms of fuel prices. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with the Majority Leader that we take this matter to mediation, so that we come up with an informed and a better and more in-depth decision than we took at the beginning of the year when we were doing, in the last session when we were doing the division of revenue bill. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second, and I urge members to support that, so that the mediation process also could be expedited, so that a report could be tabled in the houses as fast as possible, Mr. Speaker.
Members on their feet, take your seats. Kuroria, take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question at order number 15, which is that the Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2026, be now considered. I see Ndindi Nyoro wants to speak.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. And Honorable Speaker, I call upon all of us as members in the National Assembly, because clearly this issue is headed for mediation, that it is important that we also be considerate as the members of the National Assembly to also our county governments. Honorable Speaker, there is a rise in terms of the revenues of Kenya from last financial year to this current financial year, nominally to around 8 to 10% in terms of those revenues. Honorable Speaker, also in terms of the cumulative budget, we will now be considering a budget of around 4.8 trillion Kenya shillings, a figure we have never considered in this House before. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, my call is that we must support devolution and be seen to actually support it, because we have actually maintained the same amount we gave to our county governments, the share of revenue of 420 billion Kenya shillings. Honorable Speaker, we are proposing to sustain the same. And I don't think that is fair, Honorable Speaker, and especially given that the inflationary pressures alone, we will be talking at around maybe over 5%, Honorable Speaker. It is important, Honorable Speaker, that as we consider these kind of matters, let us not personalize. When we personalize that we are giving this money to specific governors, we are likely, Honorable Speaker, to be subjective.
Yes, there's a point of order.
First, we have not yet even voted whether we are sending this matter to a mediation or not. You have not put the question yet. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I want to inform the House that it is this House that in the last financial year that increased revenue shareable revenue of the counties from 385 billion to 415 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. It's on record, Mr. Speaker. We are the owners of devolution. We know how devolution works, and we want to support devolution. So that is why, we want to send, because it is the Senate that has given this figure, it's not the National Assembly. They have said that they want to increase this revenue to 454 billion. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with them in totality. We can decrease or we can increase in accordance with what is possible. But Mr. Speaker, let us not also use this as a political, let us not politicize this process. Yes, the majority leader can inform you as a distinguished former chair of the budget committee, not the one we removed.
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to inform the Honorable Junet that indeed the former chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the Honorable Dindi Nyoro, stood in his place in this House when we were passing the shareable revenue last year and pretended that this is not the only amount that we are taking to the counties. And if I remember well, Honorable Dindi Nyoro was speaking about a figure of 476 billion. It's in the Hansard. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, in the same spirit, using Honorable Dindi Nyoro's words, I had just said when I was moving, there is some 8.94 billion that had been left out in the bill by both houses. And therefore, 420, the Honorable Dindi Nyoro is simply being intellectually dishonest because he knows. And there is no more dangerous thing than when those who ought to know better seek to misinform the country for political gain, Honorable Speaker. Because the Honorable Dindi Nyoro knows that 428 billion, as proposed, is not the only money that goes to counties. Two, Honorable Speaker, to remind Honorable Junet and to inform him that when we sat with him under the broad-based government arrangement, part of the 10-point agenda is to progressively move the shareable revenue to even beyond 450 billion. And we are on course, and we are working on that, Honorable Speaker. But we must also be reasonable as leaders, and that's why I said, Honorable Speaker, earlier, that this is such a time that calls for leadership, not political posturing. The easiest thing to do is to posture politically. That is why, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Dindi Nyoro will purport to be writing to you to recall the House when he knows he cannot recall even the Murang'a County Assembly, leave alone the National Assembly. And it is good in the clerk's advice to the Honorable Dindi Nyoro, he informed him that even if you were to recall the House, Honorable Speaker, this House ideally would have sat today. Looking at the dates when he wrote the letter, if you are the leader of majority or the leader of minority, was it to recall the House would have sat today. The same day we are supposed to resume business. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I don't want to call my brother dishonest, but political posturing is a very dangerous thing at a time when the nation calls for leadership.
Dindi? Oh. Then wind up your point of order.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, first I want to wind up by thanking the former chair of budget and majority leader, Kachin, the majority leader, for informing me, Mr. Speaker, properly on issues that I think are important. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say that Honorable Ndidi Nyoro is talking about governors. We are not discussing here governors, which governor is going to get what and what. That will come in the other, in Dora. The one that is Kara, the one that is coming from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, as the majority leader has affirmed here, we are on course as the broad-based government because we have increased the revenue shareable revenue from 318 to 415.
Order, Irene, what you have done is not right. Go on.
Speaker, the covenant agreement between us in the broad-based government, that is one of them is to strengthen devolution. And Mr. Speaker, that is why in the last financial year we increased it by 30 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker, in one financial year. And as the majority has said, 420, what is being proposed now, is not the only money that is going to counties. We are going to make the staff, the workers who have been working for the counties now, permanent and pensionable in the new budget, Mr. Speaker. It's going to cost the government 9 billion again. There are conditional grants that are going to go to the counties, Mr. Speaker. In total, counties will get close to 500 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, let Ndidi Nyoro not posture politically, let him wait for the mediation to happen.
Okay, point made. Ndidi Nyoro.
Honorable Speaker, I actually never needed to be informed and actually have no time for those frivolities and filibustering. And Honorable Speaker, it is important because they have brought up even as I got to the conclusion about bringing some frivolities about who needed to call what and try to which letter to the Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we need to be honest to the Kenyan people, face them honestly. Honorable Speaker, we now have a situation in this country where the government joined opposition and the opposition joined government, Honorable Speaker, that even as we listen here, the majority side and the minority side leadership, Honorable Speaker, are required singing the same song, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, in such a house of debate, there must be alternative voices, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are lying to ourselves, Honorable Speaker, and to the Kenyan people, that in this house there is a minority side and the majority side. There is none, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker,
yes.
As the House...
KJ.
Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of this session, you did do a communication to the House. And for the Honorable Member for Kiharu to call what the process is frivolity is in fact an insult to the House, an insult to yourself, an insult to the rules and procedures of this House, Mr. Speaker. There is no way the rules of this House can be frivolities, and I think it will be in order for my good friend, Honorable Ndidi Nyoro, to at least respect the House, if not the people in the House, by withdrawing what he has said, because these cannot be frivolities, Mr. Speaker.
Then they will wind up.
Honorable Speaker, going back to the debate, I just call upon all of us, Honorable Speaker, to be honest to ourselves. We need our county governments to provision healthcare services. We need, Honorable Speaker, our county governments to provision all the devolved functions and give quality service to the same people we represent. Honorable Speaker, this cannot be done through politics. When we talk about some substantive issues about money, Honorable Speaker, this is not about politics. And even if it's about politics and the Kenyan people benefit, so be it. Honorable Speaker, my take is this. There is 420 billion Kenya shillings on the table. And I needed no information from anyone to tell me that you'll also be debating the debate about conditional grants. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the motion on the table. And the motion is about shareable revenue. That we are sitting here, we have seen a climb in terms of an increase of budget in entirety. We are reading now a budget of 4.2 trillion Kenya shillings. But we come to this house and we want our county governments to still get the same money they got last year in a situation where inflationary pressures alone have taken real money out of their pockets, Honorable Speaker. We must debate on, respectively, Honorable Speaker, that yes, as we propose the 420 billion Kenya shillings, that even the Senate is entitled to ask for the 34 billion Kenya shillings. We must meet somewhere, Honorable Speaker, because this is not about that specific governor. It is about the Kenyan people. I submit, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, this I had advised the House that saying what I see, this matter is headed to mediation. And if it is, that's what resolves the divergence of opinions between the two houses. And that being the case, you have an opportunity to deal with the mediated version when it comes. And this being the case also, once we pass this, order number 16 will collapse. So do we really need to flog this? No, the mover to be called upon to reply since there has been debate. 1 minute, mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I reply, Honorable Speaker, it is good to indicate, as you have rightly put it, that what is being said here is premature. And the leader of minority had aptly captured it. Because, Honorable Speaker, the 420 billion is what has been proposed. The mediation process is a give and take process. Doesn't mean that that is the end of it. The mediation process is when we come as leaders and agree that it is possible to increase from 420 not to 454. What is the reasonable figure? Yes. Honorable Speaker, anytime the leader of minority can inform me.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform the distinguished majority leader that, Mr. Speaker, last financial year, the same bill went for mediation. And when it went to mediation, the proposed amount to counties was 395 or 94. It is the mediation committee that recommended 400 and took it to 415 billion. I don't know why the member of parliament for Kiaru is jumping the gun and saying the House must have alternative voice, which he did not have 2 years ago. He had only one voice last year. Before he was removed as chairman of budget committee, he was only on one voice. Now he wants to take my job as the minority leader, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let him go and contest that small party of his, then he will become minority leader. He can't take my job.
Honorable Speaker, I am well informed that it is, and it's actually true, that we got to 420 out of a mediation process. And that is what we are inviting the House to do, to go through a mediation process where we will nominate very serious members of this House. Very serious members. Not members who walk in for 1 minute to come and make political statements, record on TikTok and circulate out there. Serious members who sit in committees, articulate issues, weigh issues, and come up with a decision that is good for devolution, that is good for this country, and for a time such as this when the nation calls for leadership. Finally, Honorable Speaker, frivolities Frivolities, Honorable Speaker, is when an elected member of this House, knowing very well the provisions of our Standing Order 29 particularly, on the recall of the House, in engaging in frivolous activities, does a letter to the Speaker, knowing very well that he has no such powers. And before even the Speaker receives that letter in his office, the member, in his usual frivolous nature, has circulated that letter on social media, leaked it to media houses in this country to make the House look bad. I would dare say, shame on you. Shame on you. Because we have seen these things from a previous Senator of Muranga. You do letters and sneak them to the media. If you write to the Speaker as a dignified member of this House, write to the Speaker, wait for the Speaker to reply to you, because the Speaker, as you indicated, Honorable Speaker, you directed the clerk to inform the member that in line with our standing orders, it is only the leader of minority who could do that, or the leader of majority. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, was what was pointed out in your reply in your communication today, which I must say was not frivolous. You are reminding the member of Kiharu to read his standing orders, that even if you were to recall the House would have sat today. The same day the House was coming into session. I will invite the member for Kiharu to sit around this time, have the patience to listen to proposals by the distinguished member Fondia, the chair of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee, and another distinguished high-ranking member of this House, the Honorable Gekaria, who have sponsored that motion, and contribute to how we can move this country forward and leave alone political posturing for the sake of frivolous politics out there. We will have time to deal with your frivolous politics out there when the time comes. I beg to reply.
Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 15, which is that the Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2026 be now considered. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it. Honorable members, that being the case, order number 16 exits from the order paper and dies there. Order, honorable member, take your seat. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge in the public gallery Mutuma Secondary School from Gatundu, North Kiambu, Golden Angels Education from Embakasi East, Nairobi. In the speakers gallery, we have Kiserian Girls School from Kajiado, North Kajiado, Kieni Girls High School from Runyenjes, Embu, and teachers from North Carolina State and team from North Carolina State University, USA. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome all of you, the students, their teachers, and those accompanying them, and the teachers from North Carolina to the House of Parliament. Honorable members, it's now 4:19. I had directed that we got this motion of adjournment at 4:15. We have exceeded by a few minutes. And now call upon the member from Fondia. Yes, Mwenje, what is it?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to take a lot of time because the fuel issue is a very big issue that is coming up, Honorable Speaker. And I think it's important we discuss it. But I was wondering, Honorable Speaker, at what point you'll allocate time to discuss a less important issue but all the same important, because, Honorable Speaker, over the weekend, the Arsenal won the league for the first time in 22 years, Honorable Speaker. And you yourself, Honorable Speaker, are a supporter of the Arsenal team. And even the PMQs, including the minority leader, even the PMQs, Keir Starmer, Honorable Speaker, commended the Arsenal. And you're the only person, Honorable Speaker, in this House. In the last 22 years, nobody was here. It's just you when we last won the league. So I think it is a less important issue, but all the same, thousands of Kenyans poured in the streets to see the Arsenal take the league. So, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to bring that issue. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Point of order from Manu supporters.
Ozora, what is it?
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, we are Kenyans.
Order.
Honorable Speaker, we are Kenyans, and we should be speaking about Shabana, Gor Mahia, and AFC. If we have to speak, and Kawangware United, if we have to speak about international games and EPL, let's talk about Manchester United. You cannot be discussing about us, Honorable Speaker. So,
yes, Janet.
Mr. Speaker, the world has realized and the world has come to terms that the biggest team in the world, the most formidable team in the world, Mr. Speaker, with the biggest following, supporters, Mr. Speaker, is none other than Arsenal, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no team like Arsenal in this world, Mr. Speaker. There are no players like Arsenal players in the world, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say this in conclusion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this in conclusion. For those who believe in Arsenal, and for those who support Arsenal, and for those who have faith in Arsenal, 30th is our day. When we are going to conquer the world, Mr. Speaker. 30th of this month, when we are going to conquer the world and win the championship, Mr. Speaker, and floor PSG, Mr. Speaker, 3-0, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, on a more serious note, Honorable Speaker, and without casting any aspersions, I thought the Honorable Mwenje would be considerate of all the other teams, Honorable Speaker, and not make this request when the Honorable Speaker is on the chair. Because the Honorable Speaker, I am not sure we can trust the Honorable Speaker on a matter touching on Arsenal. Therefore, I thought the Honorable Mwenje would be fair to at least wait for a time when the Honorable Speaker is not on the chair to make such a request for a debate on something to do with Arsenal, because the Honorable Speaker is a known, is a known fan and great supporter of Arsenal. But Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity to congratulate Arsenal and congratulate all the other teams that play in the Premier League, and appreciate and thank the Honorable Mark Mwenje. Honorable Speaker, I happened to be in London with the Honorable Mark Mwenje, and we had a 9 a.m. meeting the day after the game. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Mwenje could not speak in that meeting because he had lost his voice. He made his way to North London, to the Emirates Stadium, but I say I must thank him in a very special manner because I have not been a fan of any of these teams, not Man U, not Arsenal, not Liverpool, not Chelsea. I have been a supporter of Homeboys FC in Kambura village in Kikuyu. That thrashed Kawangware FC in their last game. But Honorable Speaker, my young daughter is an ardent supporter of Arsenal. And she has since recruited me into the Arsenal fans team. And I thank Honorable Mwenje because the Honorable Mwenje offered. The Honorable Mwenje offered. The Honorable Mwenje offered to go and queue at the Emirates Stadium for almost 2 hours and bought my daughter a jersey that has her name and number 7 on it. And when the Honorable Mwenje came back, I asked him, so how much is the jersey? That jersey, Honorable
Number
Speaker,
7 is the jersey of Bukayo Saka.
Now, Honorable Speaker, if you had asked me, I would tell you number 7 is Mumbi, because the jersey has the name Mumbi, number 7. But what caught my attention, Honorable Speaker, as a business person, was when Honorable Mwenje told me that he had bought that jersey for about 160 pounds, translating to about 28,000 Kenya shillings. Now, Honorable Speaker, I looked at that business opportunity. Then when I saw the celebrations around Kencom over the weekend, I asked myself how I wish I knew I would have made those jerseys and sold them. But that tells you the power of sports. And the Honorable Mwenje, I would challenge you now to have a motion that will, or even a bill that speaks to how well we support our local teams, how we use our sports fund not just to develop infrastructure, but also to make sure that all our federations are properly run and we keep politics out of our football and other sports federations, because sports, Honorable Speaker, is the next frontier of investments, Honorable Speaker, in terms of areas and spaces where people can make money. And with that, Honorable Speaker, congratulations to Arsenal and thank you, Honorable Mwenje.
Yes, Millie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be a tragedy if we hear Arsenal people speaking here and you have Manu in the house. Mr. Speaker, in my mother tongue, there is a saying that the Angotho Korgodera, when a cow dies in the home of the thin person, we will never stop hearing the last of it. So a cow has died in the home of the thin person because they've never seen this a whole 22 years. Mr. Speaker, my husband is an Arsenal supporter. And I want to tell you that I thought for a long time that he had stopped being interested in soccer. Mr. Speaker, they have just been frustrated and depressed for 22 years. The man almost divorced me out of depression because they cannot handle defeat for 22 years. They should learn from Man U. This is the biggest team on earth. Mr. Speaker, but I also want to say that we need to remember that Gor Mahia, Kogalo, also won. But let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, even though we may be saying this on a light note, but if there is one thing you can observe, is that sport has a way of uniting people. There are people who are not friends of Baba, and Baba was an Arsenal supporter, but they are all there in Arsenal, and they were putting all the photos of Baba across and sharing all over. So let us actually strengthen our sports and our games, especially the local ones, so that we can also have our sons and daughters celebrated the way these Odera people were celebrating themselves like Unite. They've not seen this thing for let them talk to us. Us, it's only 14 years.
Really?
But we are coming next time. Mr. Speaker, you should not rule me because you are biased.
Merely in 2 minutes, you have betrayed 2 people, your husband and Baba. Yes, KJ.
Mr. Speaker, I carefully hesitate to ask you to declare your interest in this matter, knowing full well, Mr. Speaker, that there is a distinction between the Honorable Moses Masika Wetangula and the Speaker of this House. And I want to imagine that the Speaker of this House ought to be neutral, Mr. Speaker, as we discuss some of these matters, Mr. Speaker. And the bigger point,
Declare your interest.
Mr. Speaker, I am a big fan of Kawangware United from Dagoretti South constituency that plays at Reruta BP Stadium, Mr. Speaker. And I think the bigger point would be for the Honorable Mwenje to look for opportunity in this house for us to be able to promote sports so that we are, if we are big fans of Arsenal or Man U in Manchester United, we can get an opportunity for them to do an exhibition match in this country, in the new Talanta Stadium, Mr. Speaker. In that way, These teams would be encouraging youthful Kenyans, because we know that there are countries like Rwanda that invest very early in their talent, so that even 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds are already out there in these international academies getting ready for a World Cup tournament, Mr. Speaker. And I do think that our biggest joy as a country would be when our teams would be as big as the teams that are being discussed. But Mr. Speaker, I must declare my interest that Manchester United, the great Manchester United, is my team of, is the team that I support,
Members,
Mr.
we
Speaker.
leave it
The
there.
great team that even remembers when they last won this Premier League, not teams that won this Premier League last when some children who are already adults, grown-ups, were not even born, Mr. Speaker. And they have just won this Premier League by fluke, Mr. Speaker, and we know the real champions shall be claiming their place in the next year's tournament. Thank you very much.
The Holy Book, the Bible, tells us that salvation is not judged by longevity. It's judged at the moment it happens. And Mwenje is damn right. Arsenal won the league. They are the champions. And they'll win. And they'll win Champions League. Order, let's not spend too much of our time discussing Man U, a team that was nearly relegated last season. We'll now invite... yes, Irene Mayaka, what is it? On the same issue?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, you know I'm known in this house as the champion of local soccer. And just as Honorable Millie said, in as much as we understand that no Arsenal fan has been able to actually say congratulations to their team since the inception of social media, because that's the last time they won. But also, Honorable Speaker, Gor Mahia has won 22 record titles. So we also need to acknowledge them for that. And Honorable Speaker, just to the point that Honorable Ishungwa said about us supporting and championing for bills and legislations that are actually supporting sports in this country, is to say that I am looking forward to this House supporting my criminalizing match-fixing bill that is soon coming to the House, so that we continue supporting soccer in this country. And finally, Honorable Speaker, the Harambee Starlets have a game against Uganda on Saturday, that when they win this game, they will be participating in the World Cup for the women football. So I'm urging all the members of this House to come on Saturday to Lindsay Sports Complex so that you can also support our girls to win.
Wanjala? Wanjala? Give Wanjala the mic.
Honorable Speaker, the people of Budalangi were all on the streets, Honorable Speaker. I didn't know that they were all supporting Arsenal. Mr. Speaker, they even raised money to have fun and Shangiri Bar and other bars in Budalangi. Mr. Speaker, I've been in a shop right now. I went to buy an Arsenal attire. Mr. Speaker, the line that is there, the shop is full, and the shop is called East West Sportswear on Moi Avenue. Honorable Speaker, Arsenal is the team to watch, and Saturday we are prepared, Mr. Speaker, all of us to cheer Arsenal as it wins the next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's end it there. Order. Mwenje, you are so right. Arsenal brought 1 million Nairobians to the streets of Nairobi to celebrate their victory. GK. My interest, Millie, is the most poorly guarded secret. My support for Arsenal.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move that this House do now adjourn Under Standing Order 33.1 to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance, namely the persistent increase in fuel prices and its far-reaching effects on the transport sector, cost of living, and economic productivity across the Republic of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, much as we know that fuel prices are determined by issues beyond our control, especially now that we've had a war in the Gulf region, what we refer to as external shocks. Honorable Speaker, we must, as a House, reason together and see how we can mitigate the effects of these prices. Honorable Speaker, one of the areas which I think we must address is investment in EV vehicles. And I know we would want to reduce import prices or import tax for electric vehicles, but I would be happier if we invested in manufacturing of those vehicles here in the country so that we can create job opportunities for our young people. Two, Honorable Speaker, we need to invest in bus rapid transport corridors and commuter railway capacity so that the prices don't hit us as hard as we have experienced. And Honorable Speaker, the third thing that I believe we need to do to address the shocks is to increase our fuel reserves. Currently, our fuel reserves can only carry us for about 20 days, less than a month. In many countries that we admire, middle-income countries like Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, these countries, even South Africa, their reserves can go up to 2-3 months. And so there is, Honorable Speaker, this is an area where we need to put in more money, especially now that we have a national infrastructure fund, so that the effect, whatever happens outside the country, especially in the areas where we import fuel, we can get a bit of a buffer. And Honorable Speaker, the last thing that I believe we need to do to lower the effects of fuel prices is to diversify our sources of fuel. Currently, we are importing fuel from the Middle East, but countries that are not feeling the pain that we are experiencing have diversified their sources, and I believe we need to do so. But now coming to my area, transport sector, Honorable Speaker, I know there are some people who have tried to politicize the fuel issue, and this is really not a time to bring in a lot of politics in this area. Some have even suggested that we do away with the taxes and levies that is charged per liter of fuel, but I think this will not help us. It will even make the situation worse. This fuel levy, are what we call RMLF, is what we have used to securitize resources, and we've been able to raise resources to jumpstart our roads. And you know, Honorable Speaker, we had a big issue with the stored road projects because of unpaid bills, pending bills. Honorable Speaker, with the creativity of this government led by His Excellency the President, we were able to we've been able to pay all the pending bills. and now almost all contractors are back to work. So, Honorable Speaker, if we do away with the fuel levies, it means that we will go back to the problem of paying bills. And Honorable Speaker, if we do away with the fuel levies, as has been suggested by some of us, and we will have a problem with our vehicles will get into problem because of potholes. So, Honorable Speaker, we need to balance this challenge with these suggestions and contributions so that we don't do away with the fuel levy and incur costs in maintenance of our vehicles, because we are again importing these parts. So, Honorable Speaker, I would wish the House comes up with the concrete steps, concrete measures that will mitigate these negative externalities to our economy and help Kenyans to be able to carry on with their daily activities without feeling the pain of fuel. I saw, Honorable Speaker, the other day in our neighboring countries, I don't want to mention the names, their citizens struggling to get fuel. Here we're talking about prices, high prices, which is of course something that we need to work on, but there are some quarters, there are some countries that do not even have a liter of fuel. So I want to appreciate the efforts made by the government to avail fuel to our economy, because without fuel, we will have a bigger problem. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and ask my committee member, Honorable Kibet Komingoi, to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, as I stand to second this motion, it is no doubt, Honorable Speaker, that there are disruptions in commodities and in fuel supply in the whole world, and in particular the sections of our continent.
There is no doubt, Honorable Speaker, that these disruptions are supposed to increase in fuel prices and also availability in parts of other African nations. There is no doubt, Honorable Speaker, that these rises and this price increase will also cause increase in other goods and other related products that use fuel as part of its production process. But the question we will ask ourselves, Madam Speaker, is what will we grapple with as a nation? Should we be concerned more about shortage of fuel or availability of fuel at a premium price? The question that we will always need to ask ourselves is how do we run our economy and how do we maintain the production within our economy, even with the disruptions that are happening within the oil sector in the country. It is no doubt that there have been also, Honorable Madam Speaker, about the strikes that have been caused by those who are directly using fuel as transportations and as a means of, as a main means of their production. And the thing that we are bringing out today in this House is so that we can be able to discuss as a country and discuss as a nation what aspects of our fuel sector do we need to do. First, Honorable Speaker, is the question of investment in the oil sector. We need to increase our capacities within the oil storage systems so that we can be able to have fuel available even with the prices increasing. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, is another question of the regulations that govern the fuel pricing. The first thing that I have in mind is it possible to have more time to be able to have more
time so that we can be able to allow the public participate in any prices increases and anticipation, so that we can have, let's say, currently we have 30 days through EPRA, that EPRA must announce new prices every other month. Is it possible to have these regulations change that we can have it after every 90 days, and within the 90 days, we will be able to adequately inform Kenyans and those who are having issues, those who use fuel, to be able to prepare themselves for the shocks that are within the industry. Further, Honorable Speaker, is the question of also having the discussion that has been ongoing on in the media, that we can be able to reduce IMLF funds, the levy that is currently being used and that has been securitized and committed to improving our roads, both maintaining them and developing them. The question then therefore we'll need to answer is, and the question that we'll need to ask ourselves so that we may be able to answer it is it better to have the deployment of this resource in the economy rather than using it to cushion those who only directly benefit in the prices changes and the prices of goods? So, Honorable Speaker, as I support and second this motion, these questions must come live amongst members, amongst Kenyans, and the decisions must come so that we can all contribute in deliberating whether stabilization that has been done by government through the Fuel Stabilization Fund is adequate. Two, whether the question of reducing further the levies and the taxes that have been subjected to oil and oil products is something that we need to look into. Three, whether the question also of different sources of fuel, like biofuels and the regulations that govern the biofuel usage within the country, so that we can be able to cushion Kenyans. I second, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Mics are not working, and the screen is not working, so just raise your hand. Honorable Janet. Okay. Yeah, let's get to Honorable John Murugara, then we'll come to Honorable Otiende, then we'll come to Dindi.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. That reduced taxes on oil products. And recently, we had the reduction moving from 16% to 8% of VAT. That is a positive act for which this House should be commended. Number two, we have also made attempts to subsidize oil products so that the prices on our pumps can also come down and our citizens are able to afford those oil products. And this is what was done recently. There was a slight reduction. It may have been marginal, but the truth is there was a reduction. So as we debate today, is there anything we can do about the war in the Gulf states? We may not do anything about that, but we can do something when it comes to considering the levies and taxes that are actually put on these products. If there is any of them that we as a House can interfere with by bringing it down to lower the prices, nothing should stop this House from doing so, but bearing in mind that we need the taxes so that we are able to develop our country, and especially the taxes on oil products which go towards development of our roads. I do support this adjournment motion and urge this House to debate it soberly so that we are able to find a solution that is going to be of benefit to the people of Kenya.
Very well. Honorable members, this adjournment motion has been moved as per Standing Order 33. Every member gets strictly 5 minutes, unless by the leave of the House. Honorable Karoli.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this important matter. A very clear example, a very clear proof that Kenya is doing something wrong when it comes to managing its petroleum imports is the fact that when you look at our prices, Kenya is actually an outlier in the region. And this is so notwithstanding the fact that Kenya has several advantages that should make its oil products more affordable. We have geographical access to the sea, we have better petroleum infrastructure, we have more oil multinationals, we have better storage and pipeline infrastructure. Nonetheless, as of today, the inflation has climbed to 5.6, largely due to high cost of fuel. The economy has had to absorb about 20 billion shillings in 2 months over increased cost of fuel, and the economic growth forecast has actually been revised downwards to about 5%. And if you look at the prices, let me just give the House some comparisons. In Kenya, petrol is 214.25, diesel is 232.92. In Uganda, petrol is actually 200. While diesel is 199, equivalent of Kenya shillings. In Tanzania, petrol is 190, diesel is 189. Rwanda, petrol is 230, diesel is actually 225. And Ethiopia, I will not want to use that data because it is heavily subsidized. But if you look at the global comparison, on average, the global price of petrol per liter is about equivalent of 188 Kenya shillings, while global average for diesel is about 204 per liter. While in Kenya, as I've said, is 214 for petrol, which is 13.6% higher than the global average, and diesel at 232, which is about 17% higher than the global average. That clearly demonstrates that there's something Kenya is doing wrong. And Honorable Speaker, it is important that we understand what is wrong that we are doing. There's this animal we call G2G, which was introduced about 3 years ago for fuel imports. It lacks transparency. It has not secured competitive prices. What the experts will tell you, better market price discovery. Why? When you import oil, there's an item called premium. Premium is where the competition is. That is where the suppliers compete. Under the G2G framework, which was not fully disclosed to this House for interrogation, the premium was fixed at $110 per ton. That premium in global markets fluctuates. It's like the rate of exchange or exchange control, foreign exchange. In our case, it has been fixed for 3 years at $110 per ton. The global average for premium has been $60 per ton, meaning Kenya is paying over $50 more per ton. The regional average has been about $80 per ton, but ours has been fixed at 110. That is where the theft is. That is where Kenyans are being squeezed and are being conned on oil prices. And it is time to audit the G2G framework and to revise it and make better price discovery possible by allowing competition on what is called premium. If we don't do that, then we are conning Kenyans, and we have been doing it for 3 years. It is now time to call a spade and say the G2G has created an uncompetitive market for oil procurement in this country, and it is time to audit and revise it. Secondly, the off-takers under the G2G framework is Gulf Oil, which is a small oil marketing company without the necessary wherewithal to bring into the market the place of better infrastructure, better storage, and the rest of them. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, we are making a big mistake. The President on the ministers should not talk about oil prices. There's an independent regulator. One of the cardinal principles is independence of the regulator. We should leave these matters to EPRA to deal with them as an independent regulator. Going forward, we now need to agree to remove VAT completely in the short term, petroleum development levy completely, agree on how to establish strategic petroleum reserves by using either local tankerage facilities or offshore, where when prices are low, we buy. But most importantly, we need to allow the regulator to review the prices more frequently. Instead of the 30-day turnaround, we could do it within 14 days, so that when the price benefits, the consumer
Complete.
The consumers may enjoy the benefits of lower prices. And finally, Madam Speaker, and thank you for giving me the extra 30 seconds, we need to diversify our sources of supply and routes. Not just strictly Strait of Hormuz. We can get oil from around the world if we use sophisticated means of trading. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. But G2G, it is time to bring it down because it is being used to scam Kenyans on oil prices. Thank you.
Very well. Member for Kiharu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to go direct to the point. And number one is that I wrote to Parliament when this issue happened, 2 letters actually, one for recall and the other one for consideration with specifics on the things that I'm proposing. And I am happy that tomorrow I'll be appearing before the Budget Committee to further those proposals. And on Friday, I'll be appearing before the Finance Committee. But Honorable Speaker, I also find it unfortunate the earlier assertions in regards to the letter I wrote in terms of recalling Parliament. Honorable Speaker, as all of us know, as Kenyans know, the role of the Member of Parliament as to when they actually deposit the letter to the relevant office. It's not my responsibility to look for the holder of the office. He could be chairing a meeting in Bugoma, for example, for a political party, or any other, Honorable Speaker. It's not my role to look for them. And I say so because this issue went to the media way after I raised it. And Honorable Speaker, it is not my responsibility to call office holders to come back to the office and check the communication from various members.
Member for
Secondly,
Kiharu, please do not challenge the Speaker's ruling. Be careful to just use your minutes to prosecute your issue.
the second thing, Honorable Speaker, that I want to raise, we now have a government that has been swallowed by the opposition, and the other way around, an opposition that is in government. We have leadership on both sides, on the government and the opposition, singing the same choir, Honorable Speaker. Who will stand in for Kenya's, Honorable Speaker, if we don't fill up the gap, Honorable Speaker? We must do what we must, Honorable Speaker, because the current situation...
Order, Member for Kiharu. Honorable Member for Sifuna.
Speaker.
What is out of order?
What's out of order, Madam Speaker, is I want to educate my younger brother that there is no opposition in Parliament. What we have in Parliament is majority side and minority side. And every member, in accordance with the Constitution, is supposed to hold the executive accountable. You don't expect the minority to do, you don't have to be a minority to hold government accountable. Even the majority where you belong, that is why nowadays you are talking the way you are talking.
You've made your point,
So, Madam Speaker, no, let me finish.
It is
Madam
more
Speaker, the second
order. It is more of a point of information, not point of order. What is out of order?
The manner in which the member has spoken about how to call for a special sitting of the House. Madam Speaker, that matter is well articulated in the standing orders.
That
you
has
can form
been
your own
dealt
standing
with.
order.
Order, members. Honorable members, the Speaker already gave a ruling, and the member for Kiharu has been guided accordingly because that issue has been dealt with. Honorable Karoli, there is no one on the floor. You cannot be possibly on a point of order. Member for Kiharu.
Honorable Speaker, I want to request Honorable Junet. An ignorant member cannot inform the House. I need no information from you. I know what I'm talking about. Honorable Speaker, the second point.
Honorable members.
Honorable Speaker.
Can we debate in decorum, honorable members?
I never asked for any information.
In decorum. There is no one on the floor so far. Honorable members, I'll indulge honorable member for Magarini, but honorable members, let us debate in decorum. It is important. I will give you. And you do not need to throw words to the speaker. Honorable members, I can hear you. Member for Magarini.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is the honorable member for Kiharu, Ndini Nyoro, in order to call an honorable member of this House ignorant?
Is he in order to refer to our honorable member as
You have
being
made your point. And member for Kiaru, you certainly know the rules of this house. You know what is parliamentary, what is not parliamentary. Do not throw aspersions to your colleagues.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Can I continue?
Let me hear the member for Kiaru first.
Yeah. I'm doing my submissions, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and I hope those minutes are not eating into my time, Honorable Speaker. The second thing, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kiaru.
I want to...
Member for Kiaru, a point of order has been raised on you calling a member ignorant. I certainly agree with the honorable member that you cannot possibly call a member ignorant. So I will ask you to, please don't assist me, honorable members, do not assist me. Honorable member for Kiaru, the specific issue on ignorant, you will withdraw it.
Honorable Speaker, I never called any member ignorant. I said the information he was giving me was not sufficient enough to be an information, Honorable Speaker.
I'll give majority leader, then I'll give a minority whip.
Honorable Speaker.
I'll give you.
Honorable Speaker, you know, I had retreated to my office to attend to other business, but I had to come back quickly. When I had the member for Kiaru cast aspersions on the person of the Speaker, because you do not need to name anybody by name. But what you say could be casting aspersions, and I thank you, Honorable Speaker, because you guided the member that he cannot and he must never cast aspersions on the Speaker or any other honorable member. Two, Honorable Speaker, the issue raised by the minority leader was not you can rise on a point of information to inform the member who is on his feet. The member for Kiaru was not being informed. The leader of minority stood on a point of order and was speaking to the House. Therefore, the member for Kiaru has no choice other than to withdraw that reference, and he does not need to have mentioned a name, because if you ask for respect, you must also have the temerity to respect other people.
You have made your point.
And I know you are my younger brother. Listen to my advice. I'm only advising you. If you want to go far, learn to respect other people to earn your respect back. You do not. Honorable Speaker, I was saying, Honorable Speaker, through you to the member for Kiaru. When another member raises in his place to inform the House on anything, whether it's on a point of order or a point of information, just be patient. The member for Kiaru this afternoon asked the House that we must, something I agree with him fully, we must allow dissenting opinions. That is why this is a chamber for debate. This is not a church where we sing choruses. But saying the person who was informing is ignorant or is... The Honorable Junet was not informing you. Junet informs more serious legislators.
You have made your point, Millie. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro has indicated that he did not use the word ignorant. And I think you can prove that from the House. Even when you are disagreeing with other members, you must disagree respectfully. Because, Madam Speaker, there's a lot that we can say if we were to go that direction. Madam Speaker, if Honorable Ndindi remembers when we were in the Budget Committee, I told him, wade carefully in this House. One day you might find yourself not as the Chair of Budget and with me as the Chair of Budget before this Parliament ends. Mr. Speaker, the only wrong thing I got was it's not me who's Chair of Budget, but he's sitting as non-Chair of Budget, and Atandi is the Chair of Budget. So I just want to encourage you, my brother, we've been there, done that, got a t-shirt. Even when you are debating, respect other honorable members. And Madam Speaker would call that we check. If indeed he called Honorable Junet ignorant, he needs to apologize so that is purged. Because his constituents did not elect him because he's ignorant. That's not up to...
No member is ignorant. I'm with you, Honorable Millie. Junet?
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, first, this is a House of Record. I stood up on a point of order. I did not request you to give me a point of information, because Honorable Ndindi is one of the least people I can inform. Madam Speaker, because we don't have that relationship of informing each other. But I was standing on a point of order to bring to your attention, and you asked me twice, what is your point of order? Twice on record. And I told you one is about the issue of how to recall the House for a special sitting, because he was disputing what the substantive speaker had said. Secondly, was the issue of, there's an issue I raised with him about what were some of the issues he raised. Now he has turned the whole thing that I'm informing him. Why should I inform him? I don't come from Kiaru. Why should I inform you? And I don't intend to live in Kiaru.
I have heard all of you. And the one thing I agree with is what Majority Leader and all of you have said. We must maintain decorum in this House. We do not have to all agree, by the way. But Member for Kiaru, on one thing that I will fault you is that I heard you clearly say an ignorant member. I will want you to withdraw that on record, and then you can proceed and we can hear the rest of your submission.
Honorable Speaker, I would require that we actually check on the answer kindly, because I also recall I was insinuating on what he said, not the person, Honorable Speaker. And clearly, as you actually ruled yourself, Honorable Speaker, the member was out of order, Honorable Speaker. But for the continuity, because you are executing a very important issue, I withdraw, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, going forward.
I ordered withdrawal, not apology.
Yes.
Go on, Honorable Member for Kiaru.
Honorable Speaker, my proposal is as follows. If we check the landing cost of both super petrol and diesel in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, taxes in terms of petrol account for 74 shillings and diesel account for close to 70 shillings, Honorable Speaker. And my proposal is simple, and the decision lies on this House. One, Honorable Speaker, is that we must make a decision now to lower pump prices, or we are going to deal with a much more sticky situation to our economy in the future. Honorable Speaker, when prices are rising, it is temporary, because the issue that is there globally is temporal. But there are decisions we can make that will affect our economy in the next many months to come, Honorable Speaker. Some of the variables of the economy, for example, take one, like fares. When we raise the prices of fuel, commensurate, the fares go up. But Honorable Speaker, even when the global oil prices will be going down in the next few months, Honorable Speaker, it will be highly unlikely that you are going to realize the downward trend in terms of fares. Because some of these economic variables are sticky in terms of coming down. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'll be appearing before Budget Committee and the Finance to give these proposals. One, in the next 6 months, that we exempt fuel products from VAT, that is, we exempt the 8% that is there. Honorable Speaker, that you bring the cost in terms of pump by 15 shillings and 17 shillings respectively in terms of diesel and petrol. Secondly, is that, Honorable Speaker, we bring down RMLF by Kenya shilling 7. Honorable Speaker, these are not all the taxes. RMLF is 25 shillings. I'm just proposing 7. Honorable Speaker, the other thing does not require even us to debate. And that is, we lower the margins of the importers and the people involved in the oil business. And I'm proposing 4 shillings because, Honorable Speaker, it used to be 12 shillings, now it is 17 shillings. And the last proposal, Honorable Speaker, is that we invoke the money we already have in the fuel stabilization fund so that we subsidize diesel further, Honorable Speaker. And if we do all these things, Honorable Speaker, the pump price will be around 187 shillings, Honorable Speaker, for petrol and diesel. Honorable Speaker, some people then are arguing, how are we going to cover the shortfall in terms of the revenues that are put forth? Honorable Speaker, we'll go to the expenditure side, and that is why I'll be appearing before the Budget Committee. The kind of largesse we see in government, this is now the time to cut the flesh. It is the time to cut the fat. That the big offices that are currently enjoying huge budgets, Honorable Speaker, political budgets, it is now time, Honorable Speaker, we scale down on those expenditures for the sake of Kenyans, because we may tell Kenyans to tighten the belt, but Kenyans have no more belt to tighten, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kiharu, you have 2 minutes.
The other thing, Honorable Speaker, that we have to be aware of, we can talk about global oil prices. It is fine. In 2022, a barrel of oil in May was around $120 per barrel. Now we are talking at around $90 per barrel as of today. Global oil prices were higher in 2022 than now. But now, the palm prices are higher than 2022. There is one denominator in the Honorable Speaker. It is an animal called G to C, government to cartels, Honorable Speaker, but we like calling it G to G, Honorable Speaker. On the side of the vendors, we have government representing their countries. Saudi Aramco is a government entity. ADNOC is a government entity. Here in Kenya, what we did around that time of G2G, instead of pumping up our NOC, National Oil Corporation, Honorable Speaker, we did the unfathomable. We actually give it the last dose and finished it, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, currently, the government of Saudi Arabia and the government of UAE in that G2G, on this other side, they are dealing with a cartel which is milking Kenya's, Honorable Speaker, of their money. That there are people currently smiling out of profits when the Kenyan people, Honorable Speaker, are having pain.
Honorable Speaker, I didn't want to interrupt the member for Kiharu. But you know, these are house of records. And the Honorable member for Kiharu pretends that G2G is not G2G, is G to C, and says it is government to cartels. This house and the country would benefit more from the member for Kiharu if he would substantiate and inform this house who are these cartels, because he seems to know them. Number two, Honorable Speaker, the member pretends that global oil prices were high in 2022. It would also be important for him to let the country know what was the cost of freight then, and was the Strait of Hormuz open then and today? Because you just need to have a good analysis of the landed costs of fuel today. And you will see that part of what is bedeviling the global economy, not the Kenyan economy, is the cost of freight. The same way, even airlines today are having to detour, take longer routes, and take a hit on their profits. And some parking their vehicles.
Majority Leader.
Their equipment.
You made your point. Let Honorable Member for Kiharu respond and finish.
Honorable Speaker, in response, just to make it very clear to all of us, the fuel from Saudi Arabia does not pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So let us not keep on misinforming Kenyans in looking for short solutions, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, I beseech you, my brothers and sisters, today, we have many times stood in terms of where we are politically. There is now a test before us, and I call upon all of us, let us start on the side of Kenyans for once, Honorable Speaker. There is something this House can do in terms of
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's true. Kenyans are going through a hard time, especially the lower household families, because of this tragedy. It's also true that we should be aware that we are in a global village. And anything that happens in this part of the global village will affect us. The arrangement of our oil import, which is also true that we import all refined petroleum products to this country. And they tend to pass through this Strait of Hormuz, which is never straight again because of the conflict in the Middle East. Madam Speaker, that small passage measuring 30 to 39 kilometers handles 1 million barrels of oil a day. And that is the source of a problem. Now, I would just encourage all of us, when there is crisis in the country, our citizens, the common wananchi, looks upon us how we can solve them. And what seems to be missing today, Madam Speaker, is communication. That's why I'm proud of CS John Mbadi, what he was doing at Jivaji Garden today. Letting people ask questions as responding to them so that they can understand what is going on. We had it in COVID-19, and we passed through that, and many crises will come, and the people of Kenya will depend on us in order to intervene in one way or the other. The effort of the government, which they have done so far, is okay, but we need to do more. How do we do more if we don't support what the government is doing? And if we branch to politicizing the interventions, then we make it even worse. The lowering of taxes, yes. Subsidies, yes. But I think the long term, which we should always be aspiring to do, is to have alternative energy source, the solar and all this, the wind, so that when crisis hit like that, it does not paralyze the operation of the country. Madam Speaker, in closing, I want to urge my fellow parliamentarians on what we have just gone through here, talking about decorums and how we shout to each other. And it's not auguring well. We are honorable members, and I feel if there's a message or an opinion to be conveyed, we have to do it with decorum. Lastly, I want to say that let's retreat to our constituents or constituencies and try to do the best we can, including urging the government to give food subsidy to the people. Because right now the production is up, the food prices are up, because they are all based on this kind of energy that we have for their productions. So in other countries, they have done that. All the lower family members have access to a card to food subsidy so that the family members can keep on in their health. But lastly, I disagree with this doctrine of comparison. Each country has different ways of dealing with things and different factors that really drive prices. So we take a lot of time comparing ourselves with this Uganda, Tanzania. Let's deal with our problems as Kenyans and have a solution. In fact, if you go there, you will find a different scenario. There is no common denominator for all that we go through every day as a country in comparison with that. With that, I urge our members, please communicate to our constituents. Let's support the government to deal with this. Only you have government once in a lifetime, once in a session, life for any live parliament. So let's support the government to deal with this. Let's give ideas, as I have heard from other members here, so that we can have an amicable solution to what is going on. Politics will not solve this problem. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this matter. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I sympathize and empathize with the difficulties the Kenyans are going through. It is true that this rise in fuel prices, Madam Speaker, has put a lot of burden on Kenyans, Madam Speaker, both at home and even in their workplace, Madam Speaker, and has put a strain on their pocket, Madam Speaker. So I empathize, and we must come up with a solution. For a fact, the common denominator is that we must come with a solution on this matter. But having said, Madam Speaker, what worries me, because I really want a solution to this problem, because that is our job, and that is why we are members of this House, Madam Speaker, because we are supposed to deal with matters of concern to the people. That's our main mandate. So, Madam Speaker, I feel that this is the right moment for us to engage on this matter soberly and in a manner that does not politicize the issue, and we don't do it in a manner that we want to score politically. Having said, Madam Speaker, what worries me now is when I see people suddenly becoming clever, Madam Speaker. You become suddenly clever that now you know everything. Madam Speaker, why do I say so that? Why do I say so? I want someone to tell me on the floor of this House, before this war of the Middle East happened, before there was a war in the Middle East between Iran and Israel and the United States, what was the situation? Because people now want to deny the fact that this is a global problem. They want to make it a Kenyan problem, Madam Speaker. Before the war happened, was there any problem in the fuel system in this country, Madam Speaker? The answer is no. What has brought this problem is after the war is when, Madam Speaker, everyone had his own time to speak on issues. Let us be given time. Madam Speaker, I was not brought this house by someone. I was brought here by my constituents. Madam Speaker,
address the
I'm addressing those interruptions. Madam Speaker, I am saying before the war happened, there was no problem with the fuel. Now it's a fact that it is the global problem that has affected this country. Number two, Madam Speaker, there's these sweeping statements people make. Oh, Uganda is cheaper in fuel. Oh, Tanzania is cheaper in fuel. That's a very tired narrative in this country that we should stop using. Why do I say so? How do I qualify that? Madam Speaker, our economies are different. The amount of debt that this country has is not the same as the debt Uganda has. It's not the same the debt Tanzania has. And some of the people who have put this debt to this country are the ones speaking here. They are once the chairs of committees, of budget committee. I asked them on this floor, and it's on record. It's on record. I asked them on this floor, why are you allowing the government to borrow more then? They told me, my friend, look at Japan. They have borrowed 100% of their GDP. Look at America. They have borrowed 200% of their GDP. Look at Singapore. They have borrowed. I was that time still in the minority. Today, they're not talking about that. Now they're saying you must reduce your taxes. How do you reduce your tax when you have committed to this country 10 trillion shillings by the time you're leaving office? Madam Speaker, let's call a spade a spade. Why we are paying more taxes as a country is because we have more debt than Uganda, we have more debt than Tanzania. If we reduce our debt, give us a formula of how to reduce our debt, our taxes will come down. Secondly, Madam Speaker, you are saying that I want this fuel levy removed from that in form of taxes, I want VAT removed. Very good. Those are sweeping statements. You want me to reduce, Madam Speaker, I've not even spoken. The issue is, tell me where I am a leader. I am not any other member from Guasi or somewhere.
Do not, you are actually wasting your time.
Madam Speaker, I'm saying, you are telling me to remove fuel levy by 7 shillings, VAT by 8 shillings, by 8%. Madam, you are not telling me where I'm going to raise that revenue from. You are just saying there's largesse in government. No, as a good economist, the way you are trying to portray yourself, you should tell me, remove these taxes, and this is where you will raise the revenue from. In specific places. I want to go to the issue of G2G, Madam Speaker. Can this House be told what was the situation in this country before G2G came? We were queuing for fuel in petrol stations, Madam Speaker, you remember. We were walking with jerrycans in our vehicles, Madam Speaker. There was no fuel in any station in this country. When President Uhuru Kenyatta was leaving office, there was no fuel in
Honorable members, I had guided when we started the debate that this is under Standing Order 33. It is limited to 5 minutes, but allow me to use my discretion to give 5 more minutes to Honorable Junet and 10 minutes to the majority leader.
Madam Speaker, thank you.
But the rest of you, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for your indulgence. Madam Speaker, what was the situation when G2G was brought to this country? There was no fuel in this country. Prices were high, Madam Speaker. The dollar was at 160 something, Madam Speaker. There are 180 oil marketing companies in this country. All all those 100 and something oil marketing companies were buying dollars at the same time to buy fuel, Madam Speaker, fuel supplies. What was happening? There was scramble for dollar in this country. And now the dollar strengthened and the Kenyan shilling was losing. Madam Speaker, let us appreciate the gains we have made from G to D, Madam Speaker. You can call it G to C, G to D, G to Y, whatever you want. The fact of the matter, I am not here to defend Gulf Oil Company, Madam Speaker, but when you go do research on Gulf Oil Company, Madam Speaker, the fact remains that Gulf Oil Company has been in the oil business for the last 20 years, Madam Speaker. It was not registered because of the G2G. Gulf Oil Company was operating as an oil company in this country in 2009, 2008, 2009, 10. They were the ones even who were winning the OTC even that time. The open tender system, the people who, one of the companies that used to win and supply for the whole country was Gulf Oil Company. All that is in record, Madam Speaker. We cannot deny facts, Madam Speaker. You may have problem with the owner, you may want to extort something from him, you want money from him. That's a different matter, Madam Speaker. But the fact that will remain is that Gulf Oil Company has been an oil marketer in this country for the last 20 years. It has been there during Kibaki's time, it has been there during Uhuru's time, and it will be there during Ruto's time, and it will be there when I become president, God willing, which I'm foreseeing in the near future. Madam Speaker, I want to say this. Let us not politicize things just because we want to incite Kenyans. It is true Kenyans are suffering. I acknowledge that we have to do something to alleviate that suffering from Kenyans. But let's do it in a honest manner. Let's not do it in a way that you think you can score politically. You want to portray the broad-based government in the black because you think you can win an election. This could be a temporary issue. I don't know what you're going to say in 2 months' time when this war ends and prices come down. If you are telling me it is because of the premium, the way some prophets here are talking about it, why was it cheaper than before the war? It is what the majority leader is saying. What has gone up is freight, Madam Speaker. That is what is making the oil expensive today, because insurances, freight have gone up because of the war. Somebody is telling me that the oil of Kenya does not pass through the port of the Strait of Hormuz. When have you become an escort of a ship coming to Kenya? That you know now it doesn't pass Hormuz, it passes I don't know which country. My friends, the fact of the matter is we are not an oil producing company. Neither even do we have a refinery like Nigeria. We buy from international market. And even today, you know, people who don't watch international news also, who don't watch what is happening globally, have a problem. Even there is a problem of fuel in the United States of America that is producing fuel. Let us not lie to Kenyans. Let us not incite them. Let us come with a solution that can help them. Madam Speaker, one of the solutions I want to propose, I don't want to be, general like my colleagues. This transport industry that has been affected heavily by the fuel prices, Madam Speaker, majority of them have loans that they pay. They have borrowed from banks. Just like the COVID time, we need to speak to the financial companies, the banks, to freeze their interest for the time being, to freeze their loans, so that there's nothing to declare. I'm not a conman like you, Bana. You are, Bana, keep quiet, Bana. I don't want to engage you.
Honorable Juliet, focus.
Madam Speaker, it is high time we allow the matatus. And I've come to realize Kenyans need to diversify even in these matatu things. Because there are people who have used it politically of late, I can see. We allow the matatu industry to be, the financial companies, the banks, to allow the matatu industries to give them moratorium in terms of payments of their interest and loans. Madam Speaker, if we are truly leaders, as we call ourselves, let us not come here to posture politically. Let us give solutions that can advance the country, that can make our country better, that can make our country look good. Madam Speaker, I don't benefit in any way by paying higher prices for fuel. It doesn't pay, I'm actually in the transport.
You've made your point, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to support this motion. And Honorable Speaker, as I begin, as I said earlier, this is a time that calls for leadership. The easiest thing for us to do as politicians is political posturing, saying and speaking to the gallery, saying all manner of pleasantries that we think will excite our supporters and that which sounds good to the people, but may not be true. And I say that, Honorable Speaker, because when we make proposals here, as members of parliament, we must not make proposals that simply speaks to the gallery. And that is what I see with some of our colleagues, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is the House that is charged with the responsibility of making budgets. And we all know, including those of us like myself, who have had the privilege to serve as chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, and I speak this from a point of authority, Speaker, because I served for 2 years, almost 2 years, before I was fired, as the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Honorable Speaker, you remember then the Honorable Junaid saying that even as we fire Honorable Ishongwa, he was the best chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. And my record still speaks for itself, Honorable Speaker. And never a time when I served as chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, after I was removed, unfairly so, Honorable Speaker, there is not a single moment I stood on the floor of this House to speak against matters that I had prosecuted as a chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Never. And I will never do that, because I make conscious decisions as a leader. I don't make decisions to excite and please people out there to praise you as the greatest of all times. You may think you are the greatest of all times as you move around with lecture notes, only to come and realize it ends up in premium tiers when the people discover you are lying to them. Because when you tell us that we can reduce VAT, we can do away with VAT, you know, as a member of this House, that whatever you give, something else must give in. It will translate either to reduced capitation for our secondary school and primary school students. It will translate to either lower funding for university students. It will translate to lower budgetary allocations for our healthcare workers and our healthcare system. It will translate to a slowdown of our economy, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, even as we make proposals, Honorable Speaker, I want to identify myself with some of the proposals that have been made by the Honorable Junaid, that it is possible, and I liked what the governor for Nairobi said in the press conference last week, that it is possible to plead, because these are not normal times. During the COVID pandemic, our financial services sector came up and rose to the occasion and extended moratoriums on loans to people who are affected by the COVID pandemic. This is such a time. There is no other sector in this country that is making more money in terms of profits than the financial services sector, and I'm speaking to banks and the bank owners. If you are able to extend moratoriums on interest and penalties for late payment of loans to those in the hospitality sector who are confronted with the pandemic in 2019-2020, it is possible today for our banking sector to extend the same moratorium to our transport sector players. And I'm not talking about matatus alone and buses. I'm talking about truck owners and truck drivers who transport goods, including the food we eat in Nairobi and other urban areas from our rural areas. They need a reprieve. Many of these people, we must empathize with them because they have taken up loans to buy the assets that they are using, and we must ask and urge the financial services sector, our banks, to extend a moratorium on interest like they did during the COVID pandemic, because this is wartime. And wartime economies cannot operate the same way as peacetime economies operate. I've had a member here pretend, oh, global oil prices per barrel were lower in 2022 than they are today. True. But be honest as a leader. Tell the people that what you tell them, that Saudi oil never goes through the Strait of Hormuz, is a plain lie. In Saudi, to the east, take their oil, most of them, almost 80 to 90% of the oil fields in Saudi take their crude oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Number two, be honest. Tell the Kenyan people it is true cost per barrel in 2022 was lower. But what is affecting us as a country is that we do not have an oil refinery. We killed Changamwe Oil Refinery in the earlier years, before this administration, in the Kibaki days. But today, Honorable Speaker, we import not crude oil. So if crude oil per barrel is cheaper, ask yourself, where do you refine your oil? If you are refining your oil, for instance, in Bahrain, the oil refinery in Bahrain was bombed. What does that do to the cost of the refined fuel that we import, because we import refined fuel into this country? Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what should this motion be doing? This motion is not an opportunity for people to come and posture here, wannabe opposition leaders, like those who are attempting to interrupt me now. Honorable Speaker, they have not temerity to listen to the truth, because the truth stands firm. Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, there is nothing that I've said that is out of order.
Honorable Karoli,
Yes,
what
Honorable
is out
Speaker,
of order?
I don't think the Honorable Member is not in order to mislead not just the House, but the nation.
What is out of order?
His explanation that the closure of the Kenya petroleum refineries has led to increase in the cost of fuel in Kenya. It is the opposite. Kenya, when we had the KPRL, was importing 70% white
Honorable
oil.
Karoli.
So it is
Honorable,
wrong.
order,
It is wrong.
order.
What is trying,
I am trying to also listen to you. I had you debate and you gave your point of view. Allow the Honorable
including the food we eat in Nairobi and other urban areas from rural areas. They need a reprieve. Many of these people, we must empathize with them because they have taken up loans to buy the assets that they are using, and we must ask and urge the financial service sector, our banks, to extend a moratorium on interest like they did during the COVID pandemic, because this is wartime. And wartime economies cannot operate the same way as peacetime economies operate. I've had a member here pretend, oh, global oil prices per barrel were lower in 2022 than they are today. True. But be honest as a leader. Tell the people that what you tell them, that Saudi oil never goes through the Strait of Hormuz, is a plain lie. In Saudi, to the east, take their oil, most of them, almost 80 to 90% of the oil fields in Saudi take their crude oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Number two, be honest. Tell the Kenyan people, it is true, cost per barrel in 2022 was lower. But what is affecting us as a country is that we do not have an oil refinery. We killed Changaba Oil Refinery in the earlier years, before this administration, in the Kibaki days. But today, Honorable Speaker, we import not crude oil. So if crude oil per barrel is cheaper, ask yourself, where do you refine your oil? If you are refining your oil, for instance, in Bahrain, the oil refinery in Bahrain was bombed. What does that do to the cost of the refined fuel that we import, because we import refined fuel into this country? Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what should this motion be doing? This motion is not an opportunity for people to come and posture here, wannabe opposition leaders, like those who are attempting to interrupt me now. Honorable Speaker, they have not the merit to listen to the truth, because the truth stands firm, Honorable
Order,
Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, there is nothing that I've said that is out of order.
Honorable Karoli,
Yes,
what
Honorable
is out
Speaker,
of order?
I don't think the Honorable Member is not in order to mislead not just the House, but the nation.
What is out of order?
His explanation that the closure of the Kenya petroleum refineries has led to increase in the cost of fuel in Kenya. It is the opposite. Kenya, when we had the KPRL, was importing 70% white
Honorable
oil.
Karoli.
So it is
Honorable,
wrong.
order,
It is wrong.
order.
What is right?
I am trying to also listen to you. I had you debate, and you gave your point of view. Allow the honorable member to also debate, unless something is totally out of order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the protection, because the member is on debate and he had his time. If he can just have the temerity and the patience to listen to me, educate him a bit, just a bit. I may not have the ability to educate him on everything. But Honorable Speaker, I was talking about the price of crude oil. We do not import crude oil into this country. We import refined product or processed product, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, if we have seen refineries being bombed, what does that tell you in simple economics, in the law of demand and supply, Honorable Speaker? We have been told, Honorable Speaker, oh, the price of oil in Ethiopia is much lower. I must thank Citizen TV and the journalist called Alex Chamwada. They did a very good piece showing us as the people of Kenya how fortunate we are that we entered into the G2G arrangement. That ensures today we are not short of supply. Honorable Speaker, if we wanted to be populist, it is very easy. Cut down the supply of diesel, for instance. If you are consuming 2 million liters of diesel in a day, cut it by half. Use what we have been told as a fuel subsidy. You have so many billions of subsidy. Use that money to subsidize a lower supply of fuel. And that is what many people are doing today. That is why you will see queues and queues, long queues of vehicles.
What is out of
because
order?
they are chasing a smaller amount of product.
Honorable Nyoro, what is out of order?
My point of order, Honorable Speaker, is on the honesty that we need to debate, to have in this debate. That you are very quick to give examples of Ethiopia and Burundi when it's convenient. Why can't we use the examples that are there of a country like Uganda,
Member
which
for
transports
Keharu.
fuel through Kenya?
Order. Member for Keharu, I had Honorable Karoli give examples and their points of debates. Allow members to give examples as they deem fit to fit their
Honorable
submission.
Speaker, thank you again, Honorable Speaker. I told you these people have no patience because the truth at times becomes very bitter and painful. But let me take you to Uganda, Honorable Speaker, because that is the point I was on. It is possible for us, if you wanted to be populist today, to cut down the supply of diesel, for instance, use the resources, because you subsidize fuel per liter. Therefore, if you are subsidizing, say, 2 million liters of diesel being consumed every day, just cut supply by half to 50%, then do what they are doing in some countries. Make the fuel very cheap, but unavailable. What does that do to our economy? Those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as leaders. Because I can stand here, Honorable Speaker, and pontificate all manner of goodies and sweet nothings, but they will not help this economy. What we need to look at is how do we chew gum and scale the stairs at the same time, Honorable Speaker. And we must not look at this thing from a short-term perspective, Honorable Speaker. We must look at it in the short term, medium term, and long term. And long term, Honorable Speaker, is what government has done through the National Infrastructure Fund. We must begin devoting resources to ensure that we have adequate resources to generate power and transmit that power. So that what? So that we are able to move to e-mobility, the electric vehicles that we are talking about here. Because we move to e-mobility today, as Honorable KJ is telling me, but do we have the power to be able to charge these cars? That is why the National Infrastructure Fund, and I must thank President William Ruto. As much as all these people will shout at him, he has remained true to the cause and focused on what needs to be done to transform this country. And he has done that amidst all this noise and shouting and insults. But with the National Infrastructure Fund, we can develop adequate power to be able to have resources, power resources to charge our electric mobility sector. We must also look at long-term solutions on supply optionality. We have seen that war in one area can completely disrupt our economies. Therefore, we must have supply optionality to look at ways where we can get supplies, whether it's from West Africa or from other areas and other far-flung corners like the US also. But I also agree with Honorable Junet. I was speaking to my nephew last night, and he was telling me now fuel in the US is more expensive than in Kenya, despite them being an oil-producing country. And I don't want to mention Venezuela and what they did in Venezuela, because they are a friendly nation. And I know many Kenyans will tell you, don't compare us with America. Don't compare us with the developed world. They have more disposable income. That is why, as responsible leaders, we must protect your disposable income from further degradation if we allow your economy to go down, while we to follow some of these populist things you are being told here. Because if you do not have money on VAT for school capitation, that will mean parents will have to pay for school fees, higher school fees. That further eats to their disposable income, Honorable Speaker. As a nation, Honorable Speaker, and I'm saying this looking at the long term and the medium term, it is inexcusable and indefensible that over the last few decades, we have allowed our country to operate without strategic oil reserves. It's inexcusable, understandable, but indefensible. In the future, we must make sure that the government of Kenya devotes resources to make sure that we have strategic national reserves for oil. If we had strategic oil reserves in this country today, we would be using the oil that was purchased when it was cheaper now to balance out with what we are getting and have moderate prices. These are solutions from leaders. I spoke about diversified sourcing, Honorable Speaker. We must diversify our sourcing of fuel. The Strait of Hormuz, Honorable Speaker, I've heard someone say, oh, all the oil does not pass through the oil of Hormuz. Where the refineries are, you must go through the Strait of Hormuz. Fact of life. But anybody being dishonest and populist will not want people to know that. I dare say the unpopular, but the right thing. I dare propose to this House.
Let me add you 1 minute. Conclude.
I was saying, Honorable Speaker, I dare say to this House that as leaders, we are dealing with wartime style of logistics around the world in the global supply chain. We cannot compare peacetime supply chain to wartime supply chain. We must be innovative. Locally, Honorable Speaker, I want to call on our financial services sector, our banks. Let us be sensitive. Let us empathize, not with the person you see as a matatu owner, but with the passenger in that matatu. Not the person you see as a farmer of maize, but the consumer of maize flour who buys that maize flour from a kiosk or from a supermarket. So that the moratorium that we extend to our matatu and transport sector owners, whether it is transporters like Honorable Junet, that Honorable Junet will be able, with his trucks, to extend the moratorium he gets from a bank to the consumer by not unreasonably increasing the transportation costs once your financing costs are rationalized. And I want to ask that part of what we should be doing today as a House and as leaders, not as politicians, is working on means and ways on how we'll help our banking sector, first, to extend those sort of moratoriums that they did during the COVID pandemic to the hospitality industry. Let us see the same. And I hope the Kenya Bankers Association, because I've seen them appear before the Finance Committee, will be speaking to some of these issues. And I want to plead with them from the floor of this House. Please, it is okay. Now, I say this because I'm a shareholder to one of the banks. I am willing to take no dividend from the banks that I hold shares.
Honorable Member for Kikuyu, I am told by the minority whip that your girls from Alliance are waiting for you back here. So I'll wind up, please.
I was winding up, I was saying, as a shareholder to banks, Honorable Speaker, I am willing to take a lower dividend or no dividend at all to help us navigate through this wartime season. Honorable Speaker, finally, let me plead with the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, with the President of the United States of America, the most powerful nation in the world, and the Iranian state, to put the lives of the people of the world ahead of all other considerations. I pray for peace. I pray for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, as much as I pray for our local politicians to see beyond this season, to see to it that life or the lives of Kenyans is more important than their political posturing, Honorable Speaker.
Very well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I pray, Honorable Speaker, that as we move to the finance bill, we will see the bank owners and the Kenya Bankers Association bring in proposals on how we can help them to be able to extend some of these moratoriums to the people. And in closing, Honorable Speaker, to the government and the people of Kenya, the leaders of the people of Kenya, through the National Infrastructure Fund, let us start thinking about alternative public transportation. Let us start thinking about not just e-mobility, light rail, trams, because a railway line or a rail infrastructure will take in more passengers cheaper.
Your time is
and
up.
the rail, Honorable Speaker.
Your time is up. The next one will go to the member for Malava. It's been, your card has been malfunctioning. Honorable Ndakwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to contribute to this important debate on the soaring of prices of fuel in our country. Mr. Speaker, the situation continues to hurt ordinary Kenyans, and especially the poor and the vulnerable members of our society. Mr. Speaker, looking at the prices on the pump, the fuel is not just a commodity. It is directly affects transport, food, electricity, even the fees we pay for our kids, and almost, Mr. Speaker, sir, every basic necessity of our society.
Member for Malava, I'm definitely not sir. The speaker is definitely not sir.
Madam Speaker.
Unless you're seeing what I'm not seeing.
Madam Speaker, you pardon me. I'm used to, you know, Honorable Tangula, our Speaker has been there. So, Madam Speaker, I hope you pardon me. As I continue, I'd like to say that, Madam Speaker, the burden of fuel prices going high, it is a burden that is transferred to the common mwananchi in the villages, in informal settlements, in towns, and also it is a high cost that is being led to the people whom we serve, and this is the time we should rise up as people of this country, not just as politicians. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, as leaders of this House, we must move beyond lamentations. We must also provide solutions, and they should be very practical, Madam Speaker. We are talking about the economy of this country, which is a pressure being mounted on a common person. And where I come from, Malava constituency, Madam Speaker, farmers are paying more to transport their farm produce like sugarcane. They are suffering in doing their daily businesses, and they're also spending more in the operations, in the families. And you know, it is about basic household needs. Madam Speaker, this ripple is devastating, and it is mainly transferred to the low earners. As a solution, Madam Speaker, looking at what we must measure as a House to put everything at rest and making it a continuity measure to cushion Kenyans, the government should strengthen and properly utilize the fuel standardization, which stabilizes the fund to protect consumers. And this is mainly looking at the certain global risks, whereby when the calf sneezes, we as Kenyans here, we shiver, and when the Americans or USA loses its diplomacy, we are affected. Madam Speaker, such a funds should be put to correct use during these difficult times and should not be left to be dormant at all times. Madam Speaker, we should also invest in more affordable and reliable public transport systems, because of a dependency on private transport, it is a burden to workers and traders. Madam Speaker, as a solution to Kenyans who are suffering more, this House should support policies that encourage local production. Madam Speaker, we should have renewable energy, and also, very much majority said, we should have renewable alternative energy sources where we have strategic natural reserves that will give us a long-term solution. And
your time is up. I had already given direction, Honorable Member. Let us utilize 5 minutes so that all of you get to speak. Honorable Member for Magarini.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi hii nikaweze kuchangia mswada huu. Naunga mkono na kwamba ni hakika Wakenya wanahangaika. Lakini pamoja na kwamba hakika Wakenya wanahangaika, haijatupa nafasi sisi tukiwa viongozi kwamba tukaweze kutumia wakati huu kufanya siasa. Ni rahisi siasa ya kupinga. Ni rahisi siasa ya kubomoa kuliko ya kujenga. Ninavyofahamu ni kwamba kuna kila jitihada inayofanywa ili kuona kwamba bei ya mafuta imepungua, ili kila mmoja akaweze kufurahia. Lakini si kweli kwamba tutoke hapo na badala ya kuwaambia Wakenya ukweli, tuende tukawahadae, kwa sababu neno la uongo ni tamu kuliko ukweli. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninafahamu ya kwamba serikali na hususa Rais yuko na mipango ya kuona ya kwamba mafuta wakati mchache ujao tutakuwa tumerudisha ule mtambo wa Changamwe. Hata kama hautajengwa Changamwe, utajengwa mahali pengine popote pale, iwe ndani ya nchi ama nje ya nchi, lakini ni mtambo ambao tutakuwa tunautawala na ni mtambo ambao utapunguza moja kwa moja bei ya mafuta na kila mmoja atafurahia. But tunahitaji, samahani Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini tunahitaji subra. Subra ndiyo itatuletea yale mema yote ambayo tunayatarajia katika nchi hii. Lakini matamshi yetu ya hapa na pale, iwe ni matangani, iwe ni katika mikutano yetu, hiyo haitatusaidia kujenga nchi, bali itatusaidia kuibomoa nchi. Nikikumbuka vizuri 2005, ndugu yangu bahati mbaya leo hayuko hapa, ningesema hivyo hivyo atakiwa hapa. Kuna wakati mmoja alisema, ndugu yangu Kaluma alisema, hii nchi lazima watu watangane ndio heshima ipatikane. 2007, 2008 hayo yalitokea. Heshima ilipatikana. Ni madhara ndiyo yalipatikana katika nchi hii. Hivyo basi ni wajibu wetu tukiwa viongozi tuone kwamba matamshi yetu yawe ni ya kujenga nchi. Naunga mkono pia wazo la kwamba tukaweze kuwa na hazina, tukaweze kuwa na mapipa ama matangi ambayo yatakuwa ni ya kuhifadhi mafuta kwa siku za usoni. Hiyo itaweza kutusaidia, lakini tusijilinganishe na nchi jirani, kwa sababu ukora wanaofanya kwa mafuta yao ya kupunguza bei ya mafuta, sisi tukitumia gari zetu zitaharibika. Kunayo makampuni ambayo huchanganya hayo mafuta ili kurudisha bei kuja chini, na hiyo itatuharibia magari. Kwa hayo machache, Mheshimiwa Spika, asante.
Asante sana. Mheshimiwa Bernard Kitur, mbunge wa Milima Nandi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute on this very important conversation, and to appreciate also the Speaker for allowing that we have this opportunity. I know Kenyans were expectant that today, when we are opening up, when resuming up the recess, this is a serious conversation that we needed to have. And I want to thank you for giving us this chance. First of all, I want to thank the government for taking the initial conversation immediately on February 28th, when we had this challenge of the problems that happened in the Gulf, and the prices spiked, and immediately the government, of course, with this great house, reduced the VAT from 16% to 8%, which obviously really assisted. And besides that, there was the utilization of the Petroleum Development Levy Fund of about 6.2 billion. And that was an immediate measure that was done. None of us expected that this was going to take quite a long time of having the war continue. But nonetheless, we've had conversations as a country, we've had conversations as leaders of various industries, I mean the matatu industry, transport industry, and I want to thank all those Kenyans who came up for. I want to thank the leaders also in the executive who participated in this discussion. Now, Honorable Speaker, I want to encourage, and I of course appreciate President William Ruto, that part of the things that is proposed is that we go to have electric vehicles in our country. And for the first 100,000 vehicles, they have a window that they can be able to import some of this with reduced levies, which I think Kenyans must now use that opportunity, and also moving us into appreciating the e-space, the space that then electric vehicle space. And I want to also encourage that we also still give more support that we can have the local manufacturing around that space. Of course, someone had also suggested that let's also have the bus rapid transport system that then will carry most of us, and we reduce the utilization of too much fuel within. Also, the concerns that I think is global and real is that when you look at countries like the US and the Europe, they really have a huge power in terms of keeping this, enough reserves. In our country, we have about 20 days. Other countries do have 90 days. And in my view, I think we need to encourage also the private players that they need to have a greater power, as one of the laws, to be able to encourage all of us to be able to have enough fuel in our country. The conversation has continued in this House, Honorable Madam Speaker, and I'm really surprised also. I've had some politicians out there mention that the fuel that come to our country don't go through Strait of Hormuz. I want to teach them, because these days it's easy. You can access all this information online. We have 3 contractors under the G2G agreement: the Saudi Aramco, which we all know, the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, and the Emirates National Oil Company. Madam Speaker, when you check out, it's a fact that 96% of the oil, of the fuel from Saudi Aramco go through the Strait of Hormuz, which now definitely they have to get other channels which are more expensive to be able to have that fuel, landing here in Mombasa. Secondly, is Abu Dhabi has over 50% of their fuel also going through the same. The Emirates NOC have 96% of the liquefied natural fuel, as well as the crude fuel is 55%. So it tells you clearly that all this fuel go through Strait of Hormuz. And therefore, when there is a blockade, They have to create other ways of how to get this fuel in Mombasa. Therefore, the landing cost has gone way up. And I would be expecting that then leaders who will be speaking going into the future must be honest to Kenyans. You don't speak as it suits you. There are also facts that must be backed up on what we're talking about. Finally, I want to encourage the creation of a refinery, whether we bring in the various countries around here regionally or within Kenya, so that we be processing the crude oil, which then will be a bit cheaper here, and also look at the available places that we can be able to get oil within our country, so that then we can be able to reduce the cost of fuel. But generally, I want to appreciate the initiatives the government has been able to take so that we have fuel in our country that is affordable, and encourage also Kenyans that let's use all the other things that we are, the means that we are able to use that would reduce the utilization of oil or the costly fuel in our country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, Honorable KJ. Honorable KJ is from Dagoretti.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah,
And
so
I would
Dagoretti
also,
South.
this is Dagoretti South, the great Dagoretti South constituency. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to start by just commending the members of Parliament for adjourning very serious business to discuss this very serious matter of national interest, because this is a matter that can only get solutions in the House that makes budget and in the House that is also involved in proposing taxes for this country, Madam Speaker. And as we approach this debate, Madam Speaker, my first plea would be for us as members of Parliament to be true to the mantra that calls us to the wisdom that he who comes to equity must come to equity with clean hands. In the sense that, Madam Speaker, that we as the House, is that we are the ones who are responsible for the taxes that Kenyans are faced with. We are the ones responsible even for the prices, informed by the decisions that we debate in this House as we make our budget, and no less people like even my very good friend from my alma mater, the Honorable Ndende Nyoro, who he himself served as a member and the chairperson of the Budget Committee at a time when some of the issues that we are debating today were coming to place, Madam Speaker, informing this House, Madam Speaker, and reminding ourselves that even some of the issues that speak to the cost of fuel, up to and including the RMLF, were considered and passed in his time as the chairperson of the Budget Committee, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, this speaks to the honesty that we must have as members of this House.
Honorable Ndende Nyoro. What is out of order?
I would never have wanted to interrupt Honorable KJ, but he mentioned my name adversely. And Honorable KJ has been in this parliament now going to 10 years. I think he knows better that the rules around taxation, RMLF, VAT, and no others are not the domain of the Budget Committee. Please, Honorable KJ, take time to read the standing orders, orient yourself, and I hope you can become a better member of Parliament.
Honorable Speaker, I do say this speaking to the principle of collective responsibility, that it was in the time when Honorable Ndende Nyoro was a chairperson of budget that the RMLF came into place. And Madam Speaker, at that time, he was almost mute about this matter. So he might not have found his new voice at this time when we are debating this issue of fuel cost in this country, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, that is not what I did rise up to speak about. My point was that he who comes to equity must come to equity with clean hands, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is a time when this House must make decisions. And some of these decisions are informed by matters that go beyond the boundaries of this country, Madam Speaker. The issues that are happening internationally, up to and including the wars that are happening around the world, and even the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, do speak to the cost and prices that are happening today. But Madam Speaker, this House has to be sensitive to the members of the public in this republic, and even more so, operators who are directly affected by the rise of the cost of fuel, who are our constituents, Madam Speaker, and our business is to debate solutions, Madam Speaker, as it is informed by our mantra that we serve for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. Madam Speaker, it has to also be noted that we are at the time of budgeting. It is budgeting season for this House. That some of the reliefs that we seek, Madam Speaker, we have to say that they are considered in this budget that is coming up, Madam Speaker. And I dare say, even ahead of time, that there shall be resolutions that shall be passed by this House as we are debating this budget and passing it, that will also speak to the matters that we are considering today. Madam Speaker, it must also be noted as we are debating this issue that we are not at liberty as Kenya to compare ourselves even with our neighbors, Madam Speaker, because the situation that is affecting the world is being felt across the globe. And even as we talk about fuel prices in our neighboring countries, we must be reminded that in places where the prices are fewer, the fuel is not available, Madam Speaker. And I'm reminded of an expose that was done by the journalist called Alex Chamwada, where he was showing us as Kenyans that even that Ethiopia that we compare ourselves to itself might be having lower fuel prices, but does not have the fuel to sell, Madam Speaker. And it must be a commendation to the government that there was foresight in the arrangements that availed fuel at a time of crisis, as we are speaking today, that Kenyans, unlike our neighbors, are not queuing to get fuel, Madam Speaker, and that the last time Kenyans were queuing for fuel is at a time of the last government where prices were so high, and even the remedies that were put were very punitive to Kenyans. Madam Speaker, the solutions must be found in this House, and we must start walking in the direction of those solutions. Madam Speaker, we know that fuel just came about as petrol came about as fuel not more than 100 years ago. And before that, there was coal, Madam Speaker. And as we speak today, the world must start walking in a direction where we are talking about green energy, Madam Speaker. And I must commend people like Moses Nderito, he himself an industrialist and a very forward-thinking Kenyan, even with some of the things that we are seeing in innovation, up to and including the electric buses that we are seeing. But Madam Speaker, it would be unfair for me to conclude without calling upon the financial institutions and banking sector to look into this matter as a Kenyan situation that needs reprieve, even from the banks, Madam Speaker. That at a time of COVID, we saw banks moving towards cushioning Kenyans against some of the costs, Madam Speaker. And if there's a time that Kenya must call our banking sector to patriotism, that time is now, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity and call upon Kenyans to also consider the forward thinking as we even put.
Your time is up. Member for Embakasi West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, right from the get-go, I want to thank the Speaker and the team that has brought this issue of fuel. Honorable Speaker, this is a very emotive issue. And even today, Honorable Speaker, when I was in one of my WhatsApp groups, I wrote that today we are reporting back to work as members of Parliament coming back from recession. And everyone who was tagging me in that same WhatsApp group was, can you discuss fuel together with other issues? Honorable Speaker, we're talking about a war that has affected fuel prices globally. And Honorable Speaker, this issue is not new because when the Ukraine war started, fuel prices were still an issue. Honorable Speaker, it's good to note the Ukraine war has now gone on longer than the Second World War. We now have an Iran war. We don't know how long this war is going to go for. So that is something that we must bear in mind. Honorable Speaker, having learned from that, we must now anticipate what might happen, because now we know that war affects fuel prices. Palestine is a risk. We have Iraq, we have Venezuela, we have Cuba. All these countries, there is a risk that there could be a further war, maybe with the US or one of the partners of the US. So that is a risk that we must put in mind. Honorable Speaker, we must remember that tariffs are always affecting fuel prices. Sanctions that every day are always issued now and then. The economic trends, the global economic trends, scarcity as well, and that could be an issue in the future because we do know that oil fields in various countries, Dubai and other areas, we've seen them drying up. Honorable Speaker, the US dollar, how the rate goes up and down. We're not stranger to what happened in 2022, where the US dollar affected us. Honorable Speaker, disease. You know, we shut down the country just about 6 years ago because of COVID. We must accept there's an Ebola crisis just across the border. Honorable Speaker, there's still hantavirus, which had marooned a number of foreign citizens somewhere, and they're still being treated, and who knows what could happen. So these issues, Honorable Speaker, we must be alive to them, that they will always be there. And once we accept that they will always be there, then it moves us to the next step. Well, Honorable Speaker, we look at, right now, we have a G2G deal. And Honorable Speaker, I'll submit to you that this deal was more built on supply rather than looking at price. So at the very beginning, it looked like a very good deal. But having even listened to even some of the people who've contributed, is that we can see that there is a problem with this G2G deal. And if it cannot respond to the issue of price, then it is a bad deal. And we must consider getting rid of it. And Honorable Speaker, I want to put a practical example. We know that there are a number of people who are heading EPRA, KPC. They realized there was a problem with the G2G deal, and they tried to find a way to get cheaper fuel into the country. And lo and behold, unfortunately, these people lost their jobs or were fired, and innocent people like Joe Sang who lost their jobs. I didn't want to go into that direction. But those people who went to incite this situation to have some of those people fired, we've come to realize they had interests. And Honorable Speaker, I'm not afraid to say, the chair of KPC, Faith, we now know they had interests. And that's why they didn't want to see anybody who was trying to go outside this G2G deal. So, Honorable Speaker, the systemic shocks will always be there. Honorable Speaker, we must think 12 months from now, Honorable Speaker. I'd propose, when it comes to RMLF, that we retain the same because we lost a lot, Honorable Speaker, and the 290 constituencies rely on this. Let us look at the matatu prices. Let us talk to the landlords to ensure that there's a freeze on our rent. Let us do food subsidies. Let us do kazi mtaani to protect these people. KPLC, let them start looking at nuclear and coal energy. And Honorable Speaker, finally, I think it is time we consider a fuel subsidy bond or an infrastructure bond that we can float out there for a certain amount, whether it's 12%, so the government can collect a bit of money. In exchange of reducing RMLF, let us use that fund to subsidize the cost of fuel for...
Very well. Member for Busia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to start by cautioning Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. He is not the sole holder or sole owner of the franchise of truth in Kenya. He sat on a committee that he witnessed unfair allocation of resources and said nothing, misled Kenyans.
This global crisis, we must all accept that it is not Kenya that did that. When bigger people, giants up there, who produce also this oil, start fighting, this disruption will, of course, come to us and harm everybody, whether you have or you have nothing. I was seated with my friends who own motorbikes in Busia. And they were talking while I took notes. They said, fine, the government has reduced some taxes and reduced diesel prices, but our motorbikes, ma'am, they don't use diesel. We use petrol. I noted. Other women in the villages said, we still use lamps, kerosene, paraffin. That too, go and represent us. Why were they telling me, yet they know very well, that I am in broad-based government? Because they do not want this issue to be politicized, to be taken the direction my friend Ndindi Nyoro is taking. Let us not mislead Kenyans just because
What
they
is
will
out of
see
order?
us as fairer.
You have mentioned member for Kearu. Let us hear. It's not information. He's on a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, again, I would never have wanted to interrupt the member for Busia, but she has clearly put it that she sat down with the boda riders in Busia, and they were requesting her to do something about the fuel prices. They were not talking to you as a roadside talk. It is for you to do something about it. And that is what precisely I have done. And that is why even Parliament has allocated me time to appear before the relevant committees from tomorrow with the concrete ideas on how to lower fuel prices. If indeed you mean well for for our brothers, the boda riders.
What is out of order?
What is out of order is for the member to keep on misinforming the House about my proposals, which I enumerated before, concrete, objective, and she wants now to politicize very objective proposals on helping the same boda riders.
You have made your point. Honorable Omanyo, this is a house of debate.
Yes, and I'm
You are
debating
also
very
free
nicely,
to make
Madam Speaker.
proposals without castigating other proposals.
Madam Speaker, I went back to how he misled us when he was the chair of budget committee. And I realized he's the one who put us in this trouble. So I was trying to remind him that he was also part of the problem. When facing this crisis today, it has come a long way, so we can tag him along the problems. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can I now finish? I know this scarcity has cost...
Member for Kearu.
Honorable Speaker, and I think it's clear for Kenyans to see why to be a Secretary General, you actually need to qualify to be one. And I would want to request the Honorable I would want to ask the member for Busia to put it in black and white on the things he's talking about when I was the chairman of budget. I have laid a proposal bare. It is upon her to take time to either support or oppose.
Honorable Dende Nyoro. Honorable Dende Nyoro. Honorable members, we agreed we will debate in decorum. I will also caution Honorable Dende not to castigate, to cast aspersions to Honorable Manyo. But Honorable Manyo, you have 5 minutes. Okay. You can choose to keep referring to Honorable Dende Nyoro's proposals, yes, or put forward yours in your submissions.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Because it's also good to have reference. Then you now give solutions. Thank you, Madam Speaker. He was my reference. I agree that actually the pinch has gotten everybody, whether you have or you have not. And I'm thinking ahead. As we solve, because the government has reduced a few things here and there, we will still feel the pinch because it is not coming to end soon. The way I keep reading news, we have people who, I don't know what they gain in wars. Whatever they gain, that's their problem. But as Kenyans, I think in future, we should not focus on buying these machines that depend on petrol and diesel because we don't produce these things. We are under the mercy of the producers. So if any Kenyan will think of buying cars in futures, electrical, motorbikes, the same, then we change from using even paraffin and kerosene, which is also not very healthy for all of us. We go to other things that the producers and manufacturers of those products, when they decide to not even supply Kenya, then we are still okay with our choices. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Member for Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me an opportunity to speak on this very, very important subject. Honorable Speaker, certainly the issue of increase in the price of fuel is an emotive issue in this country. Honorable Speaker, I sincerely empathize with Kenyans who have to bear the brunt of the high cost of living that has been brought about by the high cost of fuel prices. Honorable Speaker, as Parliament, we have an obligation to defend the interests of our people. And for that, Honorable Speaker, we must sit down as a House and look at concrete measures that we must take into account so that we shoulder Kenyans from this high cost of fuel prices. Because, Honorable Speaker, either way, with the increase of fuel prices, it will affect all sectors of our economy. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I must appreciate the fact that the G2G agreement, this country, Honorable Speaker, has assisted us as a country. I have watched news in countries like Burundi, Ethiopia, where there is massive, there is short supply of fuel in that country. Honorable Speaker, in as much as we want to criticize this G2G agreement, Honorable Speaker, I support the fact and appreciate the fact that there has been a constant supply in Kenya of fuel, courtesy of the G2G agreement, which provided for 180 a day credit terms. Honorable Speaker, also that G2G agreement, Honorable Speaker, has eliminated the need for monthly spot purchases, and that is why you see the issue. We have a consistent supply of fuel in this country. But, Honorable Speaker, this government has focused on production subsidy rather than consumption subsidy. Honorable Speaker, I have heard many members here comparing the prices in Kenya with Tanzania. Honorable Speaker, Tanzania has heavily subsidized fuel prices. And of course, that has a way of affecting the economy of the country. Honorable Speaker, in terms of consumption subsidy, for example, in fertilizer, when we subsidized fertilizer from 7,000 shillings to 2,500 shillings, Honorable Speaker, you've seen increased production in our farms. Honorable Speaker, as a House, I've said, Honorable Speaker, we must also be able to regulate oil marketers' profit margins. If the high profit margins of the oil marketers is making the palm prices go up, then, Honorable Speaker, we must find a way to regulate the oil marketers' profit margins so that at the end of the day, the consumers benefit. Honorable Speaker, I also agree with my colleagues here that we must diversify our sources of supply and route so that we do not complain about the Strait of Hormuz each and every time. So we not only look at a specific source of supply, we must be able to diversify as a country so that we get more oil sources. Honorable Speaker, having said that, last week or 2 weeks ago, we saw there were protests that were called by certain people on the issue of fuel prices. Honorable Speaker, it is unfortunate that some few individuals took advantage of those peaceful protests to engage in acts that violated our constitution. Honorable Speaker, we saw muggings in the streets. We saw vehicles being burned. We saw property being damaged. Honorable Speaker, I wish to remind our people, our Kenyans, that we have one country that we must protect. Honorable Speaker, Article 37 of our Constitution talks about protests or picketing that is peaceful and people should not be armed. So, Honorable Speaker, in as much as we have challenges with the issue of fuel prices, with the economy, Honorable Speaker, we must engage in a civil manner and in a manner that protects the greater interests of our country. So, Honorable Speaker, as a leader, I support a means that will lower fuel prices in this country. As a legislator, I'll be progressive in, in engaging.
Your time is up, Nabi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when a country goes through difficulties, as the one we are going through, my expectation is that we close ranks. There's no fuel price for opposition. There is no fuel price for those in government. There is no fuel for a poor man, and there's no fuel for a rich man. Honorable Speaker, I'm taken aback that instead of us closing ranks and looking for a viable solution for our people, we have emotionalized the debate. Honorable Speaker, we had COVID in this country. We closed ranks and we sat down from both sides and agreed on the way forward. There have been very concrete proposals put on the floor here from either side. And as a country that wants to resolve an issue, we should pick those concrete proposals and put them into action. Because at the end of the day, people want reprieve. The economy wants reprieve. If oil prices continue to escalate, this economy will collapse. Fact. Honorable Speaker, these are my proposals. I agree entirely with a proposal put forward by Honorable Ndindi that we need to share the profits. We reduce the profits of the marketers. That would give us some reprieve. Honorable Speaker, I also want to propose that we look at an aspect of G2G and renegotiate, not only to look at the issue of supply, we must look at the issue of price so that both variables are put into the agreement. It will give us some reprieve. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, at this point in the country, it is my proposal that we look for a middle way to provide a subsidy for a period of time, 6 months, as we monitor the global politics. On the other hand, Honorable Speaker, what are we doing in the long term in terms of our oil exploration in Turkana? Honorable Speaker, what are we doing with all the coal in Kitui? Honorable Speaker, it is the right time to look for resources and ensure that we have our own refinery and we go into exploring our oil in Turkana. Fourthly, Honorable Speaker, it is important that we also diversify our sources of fuel. We have countries that we could source fuel from without using the Arab fleet, which has to use the Strait of Hormuz. Honorable Speaker, I want to plead with my colleagues that the situation we are in now, we cannot call each other names. We need to reason together. We need to look for solutions together. We should not bastardize government, but we need to sit down as members of parliament and agree that this is the direction we want to go. But at least give our people reprieve, give the economy some spike. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Member for Mogotio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a very timely and discussion and motion, Madam Speaker, because the moment we are in requires that we all come together, devoid of our political affiliation. And we need to have this discussion soberly without looking at which formation you come from and which part of the formation you come from, Madam Speaker. As a nation, we are not an oil-producing nation. We are oil takers nation, Madam Speaker. And the prices being set, global prices being set, Madam Speaker, does not only affect us, but it also affects our economy, Madam Speaker. So as a nation, we need to start looking into our future, that what do we do to get away from this, because we are slaves of fossil oil from other countries. We have to look at, as we look for short-term discussions such as the discussion and the ideas that members are putting across here, Madam Speaker, we need to think on how to be independent in future and how to be able to survive in this harsh global environment, Madam Speaker. So as a nation, we need to look at how we can harness the Turkana oil that we have and put our refinery so that we're able to caution our own citizens when it comes to such a moment and such a time. We also need to look on how we can move from oil dependency to electric vehicles and other things, Madam Speaker, and diversifying so that we're able to generate our own energy and go into electric cars and other things that can make this nation run without being over-dependent and being slave of fossil oil that